Life has a way of breaking us in places we never expected to fall. There are moments when it feels like everything you worked for is slipping through your hands, and the weight of disappointment presses so heavy that even your prayers feel empty. You wonder if you will ever smile the same way again. You wonder if God still sees you, and if He does, why the pain seems to go on so long. But the truth is that God never wastes pain, and He never forgets the tears that fall in the dark. Isaiah 6:117 declares that instead of your shame, you will receive a double portion, and instead of disgrace, you will rejoice in your inheritance. This is not a soft promise, it is a declaration of restoration from the mouth of the Lord Himself. When God allows you to walk through trouble, it is never to leave you broken, it is to prepare you for a blessing so great that it will make every hardship worth. While sometimes you lose what you thought you could never live without, only to discover that what you lost was never meant to hold the weight of your calling. God allows shaking so that what is weak can fall away, and what is eternal can stand firm. The trouble you faced was not random. It was refining every sleepless night, every unanswered prayer, every season of loss was shaping you into someone who could carry double the anointing, double the wisdom, and double the strength. When God says He will give you double for your trouble, He means He will not just replace what was taken, He will multiply it in ways you could never imagine. You may feel like Job right now, stripped of what you loved, surrounded by ashes. But remember, the story did not end in ashes, it ended in abundance. Job received twice as much as he had before, because he did not let his pain turn him bitter, he let it press him closer to God. And that is what releases double portion blessing. Pain has a way of purifying your faith. It burns away the superficial and exposes the true foundation of your trust. When you have walked through loss and still lift your hands in worship, heaven takes notice. God looks at that kind of faith and says, now you are ready for double. When you keep believing even when you have no reason to, when you keep forgiving even when you are not apologized to, when you keep loving even when your heart is bleeding, that is when you qualify for double. The enemy tries to convince you that trouble means God has forgotten you, but the opposite is true. Trouble is often the training ground for transformation. It is the place where God forges your destiny like fire purifying gold. He lets you walk through what hurts so that what comes out of you will shine with His glory. The people who hurt you, the losses that crushed you, and the moments that broke your confidence are all being redeemed behind the scenes, because God is not finished with your story. He specializes in turning the pages that the enemy thought were final and writing endings that only heaven could imagine. When God restores, He never gives you back what you had. He gives you something better and greater and purer than before. The reason your trouble has been so intense is because your portion will be double when you have been rejected by many. God is preparing you to be chosen by Him in a way that will silence every lie that was spoken against you. The shame you carried is about to become the story that brings someone else healing, and the disgrace that once made you hide will become the platform where you shine. Trouble is the seedbed of testimony. Every tear waters the ground for a miracle that will one day bloom in beauty. When God promises double, He is promising balance. He is saying that for every night you cried, He will give you 2 mornings of joy. For every loss, He will give you 2 layers of gain. For every no you endured, He will give you 2 greater yeses that align with His plan. When you start seeing your trouble through the eyes of destiny, you realize that the enemy overplayed his hand. He thought your trouble would take you out, but it was actually setting you up, because God always uses what was meant for harm to bring about good. Joseph said, what you meant for evil, God meant for good, and God multiplied everything he lost. When his time came, the pit could not stop him, the prison could not hold him, and betrayal could not define him, because destiny was greater than delay, and purpose was stronger than pain. The same is true for you. Your trouble does not disqualify you, it prepares you for promotion. When God says He will give you double for your trouble, He is not speaking of small restoration. He is speaking of overflow, the kind that touches generations, the kind that makes people look at your life and say only God could do that. Sometimes we forget that the word double means not just more, but multiplied impact. When God gives you double, it means the influence you carry will reach twice as far, the peace you feel will run twice as deep, and the joy that comes will last twice as long as the sorrow that preceded it. Your story is not over, and your best chapters are not behind you. They are ahead of you, waiting for the appointed time to be revealed. So do not let the weight of today convince you that tomorrow is canceled. God is working while you are weeping. He is fighting battles you cannot see and setting up doors that will open when you least expect them. What looks like loss is actually a shift. What feels like the end is the middle of a miracle, because God is faithful to finish what He started, and He has promised to give you double for your trouble. There comes a time when God begins to turn everything that broke you into everything that builds you, and suddenly what was meant to destroy you becomes the very foundation of your destiny. When God promises double for your trouble, it is not a poetic phrase. It is a spiritual principle that runs through the entire story of redemption. Job lost everything, but his endurance unlocked restoration. Joseph was betrayed, yet his pain opened the path to a palace. Ruth lost her husband and her home, but she found purpose and a new beginning with Boaz, and became part of the lineage of Jesus. Every story of trouble that stayed faithful became a testimony of double blessing, and that is what God wants to do with your life too. There were moments you thought the pain would never end, but every moment of suffering was building a deeper well of strength inside you. You did not know it then, but God was stretching your faith, making room for more, because double requires capacity before He gives you more. He expands your heart to hold it. Sometimes that expansion hurts because you are being stretched beyond what is comfortable. You are being prepared for more than you asked for. When God restores, He restores with interest. He never gives you back the same, He upgrades it. He turns ashes into beauty, mourning into dancing, fear into faith, and loss into legacy. You will not just recover what was lost, you will rise with something richer in purpose and weightier in grace, because your trouble was never wasted. Every tear that fell, every prayer that felt unanswered, was being gathered by the God who bottles tears and redeems years. He does not forget His children. He does not overlook pain. He does not ignore injustice. He stores it all and transforms it into divine compensation. Sometimes people think double means material wealth, but that is only one small layer of it. True, double blessing means double peace, double wisdom, double intimacy with God, double clarity, double power over fear, and double vision for the future. When God gives you double, He gives you more of Himself, and that is the highest reward you can ever receive. There are seasons when God hides you in obscurity because He is preparing your integrity for visibility. The trouble may have made you invisible for a time, but in due season, God will lift you higher than you imagined, because you learned how to be faithful in the dark. Before you ever stood in the light, you did not give up when everything told you to, and now heaven is ready to release the harvest your faith planted. You will not be remembered for the pain you endured. You will be remembered for the power you carried through it. The blessing that is coming will be so complete that it will erase the sting of the past, not by pretending it never happened, but by proving it had purpose. God will show you why He allowed what He allowed, because His plans were not to break you, but to build you into someone unstoppable. When He gives you double for your trouble, the people who once pitied you will marvel at what He has done. They will see that it was never luck, it was never chance, it was grace multiplied. The same hands that once held grief will hold glory. The same heart that once ached with sorrow will beat with strength. The same path that was filled with loss will overflow with life again, because that is the nature of God. He takes what the enemy meant for destruction and transforms it into destiny. Your trouble was the training ground for your triumph. You learned endurance, you learned compassion, you learned how to pray without ceasing, and those lessons are worth more than gold. When God restores you, He restores with layers. He restores your peace, your purpose, your confidence, and your hope. You will walk into rooms you once felt unworthy to enter and speak with authority born of survival. When you look back on what you went through, you will no longer see tragedy, you will see testimony. And when others ask how you made it, you will point to heaven and say it was only by His grace. The measure of your trouble is the measure of your future impact, because double always comes after deep pain. You cannot carry resurrection power without first walking through crucifixion moments. What looked like the end was actually your setup for divine promotion. Every rejection was redirection. Every delay was preparation, every heartbreak was pruning, and every failure was training for what is next. Your destiny is not delayed. It is designed by a God who calculates the exact moment when everything will align, and when that moment comes, it will happen suddenly and completely. Your mourning will turn to dancing, and your tears will turn to testimony. For every moment of shame, you will stand with honor. For every scar, you will carry wisdom. For every wound, you will walk with healing. You will see how everything connects, and you will realize that double blessing is not about quantity, but about glory. It is about walking so deeply with God that even your losses begin to shine with His purpose. He will take the broken pieces of your life and create a masterpiece that reflects His beauty. Your latter days will be greater than your former days. Your heart will sing again. Your laughter will return stronger than before, because what God gives after the storm is not just recovery, it is renewal. When He opens the heavens over your life, the blessings will pour out in ways that leave no room for doubt. This is your season of divine compensation. What you lost in tears, you will gain in joy. What you lost in battle, you will gain in blessing. What you lost in time, you will gain in testimony. This is not the end of your story. It is the turning point where God begins to write the next chapter in ink made of grace and glory. So stand firm, lift your head and believe again, because your double portion is coming. And when it arrives, it will silence every lie and heal every wound. For the Lord your God says, instead of your shame, you will receive a double portion, and you will rejoice in your inheritance. Your trouble is ending, your testimony is beginning, and your destiny is ready to unfold in fullness, because God always gives double for your trouble.